So Greg says I put all in. He says I could put in none, and maybe the one is some. Look, I am certainly willing to agree that some forms of cell phone and internet blackout, as implemented, would be unconstitutional, even absent a declared national emergency. For example, if the government did so in a content-based manner and only shut down the cell phones of Occupy Wall Street protesters or Tea Party protesters, if you want to take the other side. That's absolutely clear. I read this as an absolute statement. They are unconstitutional and illegal, absent a declared national emergency. But you shouldn't really make your votes based upon whether or not, in trying to put this debate together, we framed the question exactly right? Because in my judgment, the question is, are there some cell phone and internet blackouts that are both constitutional and lawful that can arise in cases other than a national emergency? And I think that question, the answer is yes, for the reasons I've said. I think the way that Greg tried to distinguish the CCNV cases and the sleeping in the park National Mall case actually crystallizes in a very fundamental way where we disagree. Because he said that the crucial distinction there was that the sleeping in the park denied others the access to the forum. And that's right. And if you think that it's the airwaves and the internet that are the forum for the protest, then maybe he's right. But they aren't. What they are is the means by which people choose to gather together to conduct the protest in the forum, which is in this case the BART train station. And I take it, though the event was frustrated, so we won't know, but I take it that the anticipated intent of that protest was to frustrate people's access to the BART stations, right? To stand in lines, to occupy it with people, to prevent them from taking BART to wherever it is they wanted to go that day. For my mind, and to my money, the internet and the cell phones are not the forum. They're the means of activating people to come and occupy the BART spaces itself. I would agree completely with the idea that shutting down the internet to shut down chat rooms that you disagree with, Islamic jihadists, pro-OWS, pro-Tea Party, that's a bigger problem, much different problem, because then you're shutting down access to the forum for the discussion where the protest and the ferment occurs. Here, BART's activity, the one under dispute, was taking away the mechanisms by which the protesters could organize, just as we would, and it's no different in my mind than taking away bullhorns by saying noise limitations. I mean, those are very effective for getting people to come and say, let's go over here, let's go over there, right? So to my mind, the way that you get to agreeing with Greg is only by thinking that this was about protest on the internet, about political judgments. But it wasn't. It was about, and it is about, use of the internet to mobilize support to protest in the BART station. And that's a very different thing. Trust the government, but verify. Right? Right? Yeah, right. I take the government at its word that it generally follows its declared policies. And that's how the courts do it. They take the National Park Service at its word that it's going to prohibit everybody from sleeping on the mall. Not just the Community for Creative Nonviolence, but also the Tea Party people if they would want to. And in fact, since 1984, the Park Service has routinely denied camping permits to everybody. Indeed, one of the interesting questions, totally off topic, about what's happening in McPherson Square right now is whether or not they're diverging from that policy in ways that favor the Occupy Wall Street protesters, which would, if they were favoring them, that would be a problem. But when a government has a declared policy and abides by it, then that policy is what we judge it against. So I would say trust but verify. Clearly, if it deviates from that policy, then again, I join Greg in a heartbeat. If it actually only frustrates the protesters who it doesn't like, we're in a different ballgame. It's not a content-neutral discussion anymore. It's a content-based discussion, and government may not put its thumb on the scales of which viewpoints it favors when it creates a public forum. It can make sure that we can all use it, but it can't pick winners and losers. Thanks.